welcome to the Coverage Doc, the bonus show from As Per My Last podcast.
You already spend 5 days covering your job. We're here to cover the only two that matter.
Every week we review movies, TV shows, podcasts, books, documentaries, or whatever else helped us to mentally clock out.
But we're grading them a little differently than everybody else.
First, there's the weekend grade. Is this actually worth spending your limited free time on?
Then the weekday grade. Is it good enough to keep on in the background while you're answering emails, sitting through a pointless meeting, or pretending to update that spreadsheet?
So let's get your free time covered.
All right.
As Per My Last podcast with your hosts, Greg and Eric.
Do we want to just dive into House of Dragon right away, since we both watched it?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So, yeah, I mean, to get the grading part out of the way, just so that people know, I gave it a weekday of an A minus and a weekend of a C minus. I don't know if you want to give your grades and we can kind of get into why.
Yeah, weekday I gave it a C plus, weekend D. Yeah, we could dive into that. I have a lot to say. So
I got a lot of problems with you people. It's funny because the original Game of Thrones was so fucked up and Machiavellian and good in its own unique way that my expectations are high for this. And especially conceptually taking all that amazing writing and acting and stuff from Game of Thrones and then adding the one thing that they always hinted at but never showed, which were these cool dragons. I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then you get to the execution of it and they clearly spent all the money and time on the dragons. And I actually think the acting is pretty good, but man, they did not spend the time on the story that they did in the first one. Holy shit.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't read the books, right? But from my understanding, Game of Thrones took creative liberties, but it did its best to align with the books. Whereas House of the Dragon, I think, is more production based and, their own version of it. But is there any show worse than, what makes it difficult for me to watch is how little I care about the fucking characters. I feel like there's little substance over the characters. There's nobody that really stands out that you like. You love in Game of Thrones, you love Ned Stark. He was a do-gooder. He was wronged. His family has to seek vengeance. A war breaks out. Then you've learned about all these different houses and how they're all interacting and why they're so good or bad or how they're aligned and all this shit, right? And then House of Dragon, it's I feel like it's just a bunch of fucking Nepo crybabies that are I deserve to be on this and I'm going to let millions of people die for the sake of the fucking Targaryens or the Greens. And I'm like, does anybody give a fuck about any of this outside of the cool dragons going around?
It's a really good point. I remember the thing with Game of Thrones that I was kind of impressed with is how even within each group or each family and from season to season, they would get you to care and then not care about different people. There were Starks that I was like, oh, you're awesome. I care about what happens to you. And then there were other ones I was like, oh, you're fucking annoying. And then there were, Lannisters that were the same. There were ones that was like, oh man, I really hope this guy does well. And oh my God, I wish this person would walk into carriage traffic or whatever, but they worried about and got you to care. And to your point about this new one, they don't do that, man. I do not give a fuck about a single character. None of them are at all appealing to me.
Yeah, they don't build up on any of the real character backgrounds. Why they I think the first season they spent a little bit about behind it, and you deal with this decrepit king that's fucking literally falling apart before our eyes. Right. And Game of Thrones, I guess it's it's not unfair. I was going to say it's unfair to compare it to Game of Thrones because I think that was one of the best ones out there. But Game of Thrones had a wow factor because you cared if a character was killed off, and they weren't shy about killing off central characters. But I was like, wow, I had an emotional response to Ned Stark being beheaded, and the kids seeing their dad's head on a pike, and even the wow factor.
God, one of the most startling things ever on television.
Oh my God, yeah. The red wedding scene within itself, you're like, holy shit, did not see that one coming, right? And it's all because you're like, oh, the young wolf, and you start believing in Stark. You start believing in Robb Stark, and can he do it? And even the wow scenes of the opening scene with Jaime and his sister Cersei, and you're like, oh God, incestuous shit, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And House of the Dragon has a lot of that shit, but it's just it's more ew than it is I don't know, it's ill across the board. But I'm extremely grossed out in the Targaryen one. I'm just in the House of Dragon. I'm just oh God Almighty, this is and all you want to do is root for the dragons.
Go ahead.
You're just I hope these dragons just kill all these fucking people, and the dragons just live in their own world.
Oh yeah, exactly. I almost wish it turned into a Disney show about just the dragons talking to each other. like, yeah, I mean, I think that the original Game of Thrones, it did a lot to get you to invest in certain characters and they endeared you to them. And I just don't think, especially, and to be fair to the show, I do think the earlier seasons or season or whatever it was better at this in the House of the Dragon. But this latest season, they did not spend any time, in my opinion, making me care about any of the characters. Like I found them all like Damon is not, fucking endearing. Like Rhaenyra is not endearing. Like none of the characters, they all are just fucked up assholes. And if any of them beat any of the other ones, it's like, okay, that's fine. Like I don't feel anything.
Yeah, and this last season they killed off a lot of characters, and as I'm sitting there watching, and they're not memorable. That's the thing, right? And like the Stark family, I feel like they're all memorable characters, whereas House of Dragon, like they'll be like, oh, we killed off whoever the fuck it is, and I'm like, oh, I don't, was that person important? Like, what did they do in the show? I don't even know. I'm like, should I feel bad that they're dead? I don't know. And all the write-ups are, oh, they killed off this, and I'm like, yeah, but were they that important? I don't even know. and it's not that I wasn't paying attention. It's just that it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. And I'm sure that's a big gap between the book because I have to imagine the book goes into like who these people are to like get you more into it or whatever. But like, when you're trying to translate that to the screen and you don't have that backdrop to draw from, it just becomes like, and this show, I mean, they did this with Game of Thrones too, but like both of them suffer from that kind of Lord of the Rings syndrome of like, wait a minute, who's this guy? What family is he from? Who's he aligned with? Like, what side is he on? Like, it's really fucking complicated trying to go all beautiful mind, remembering who all these fucking people are,
Yeah.
especially when you really don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that is the biggest challenge in watching it. It's that you just don't fucking care. And like you mentioned before, right? Is it Damon? I guess he's supposed to be the likable one, but I think it's because people like Matt Smith as an actor, not because he's a memorable or endearing fucking character. He's an awful character throughout the whole thing. I mean, he fucking married his niece for Christ's sake. Like that's gross.
Yeah,
Like when she was underage.
Most of them have one emotion. He has one emotion the whole time, which is just that like sneer on his face where he's just like, oh, let's just kill him. Let's just do the violent thing. Like he has that same response in every single scenario. And like his sister has the same like, oh, I'm so shocked and upset. Like that's her same emotion she shows all the time, the entire season. Like each character just has one note they just play over and over and over. It's like,
Yeah.
man, give them a
And
chance to do something.
And how much of their offspring are just like slaughtered too? You're just like,
I know.
I'm just like, they're down every other episode. Like, I don't know. Maybe this war isn't worth losing your fucking kids for. I don't know. It's
Well, and even the kids, I'm like, the kids are just doing stupid shit. I mean, spoiler alert for anybody that's not seen it, but like, the kids are doing stuff like locking the mother, one of the most powerful characters, into a room and then trying to go fight something. And you're like, you're clearly going to die. You're way overmatched. You're a fucking idiot. And then they die. It's like, okay, like you totally deserve that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel anything for you being an idiot. And it was kind of similar with in the last season when the kid died and he like was facing the other bigger dragon and all that. I'm just like, you never spent any time making me feel like these people deserve my sympathy or empathy. You just kind of made me see them as like entitled, rich little snots that think are overconfident, to give the theme of the episode.
Yeah, it is a mighty struggle to get through it. And there's some episodes where I'm just like, okay. And then they'll throw in some battle scenes and shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, it just ends with the dragons just killing everybody. I'm like, why didn't you start with that? Like, why did you even need a battle? Like, what are we doing here?
And honestly, it's part of what makes it good for like weekday viewing versus weekend is that like that whole time when they're actually battling, like when I'm just scrolling on my phone, I can just look up and be like, oh, cool, swords. And then it's like I see who the dragons killed, and I'm like, okay, now I know what's happening. But like when I'm paying attention to it and I'm trying to like see, like, okay, wait a minute, who is he aligned with? Like who? Okay, this person showed up out of the woods and they were like trying to help Damon or hurt Damon, or this person. It's like it's really confusing, very poorly explained, and like very unclear. And so when you give it that level of attention, it's just like, what is happening with the show?
Yeah, like they're not by any stretch of the imagination writers, but I feel like I don't know if the Game of Thrones writers are doing other things, but I feel like they should have pulled those guys in for something. And maybe it's just the whole Targaryen Targaryen storyline because, you know, I felt like it was going to be like to get 4 seasons out of it. And that's another thing we need to talk about. The last season is not coming out for like 2 more fucking years. And yeah, I'm like, I barely even remember these characters to begin with. Like, I'm not going to remember in 2 years. I'm not going to give two fucks about what happens. And it's a shitty show when they only give it 8 episodes. Most hour-long shows are 10 episodes, and they're usually an hour plus long. I think this was like a 45-minute runtime, and it ended after 8 episodes. And I was just like, might as well just end the show. Like, why are we continuing it for another fucking season? HBO should just.
You're so right. And like I remember thinking back to Game of Thrones, and like they would get to the end of episodes, and I'd be like, oh my God, so much shit just happened. Like it felt like they were jamming all kinds of stuff into it, and it was always exciting because there was all with this stuff happening. There was at least 2 or 3 episodes of this season of House of Dragon where I was like, okay, so that could have just not happened, and I wouldn't even know. Like that was just total filler episodes, and the whole season was only 8 episodes.
Oh, I know, dude. I actually I'm trying to look it up right now. What was the budget? The budget season 3 was in the ballpark of $160 million, depending on the final episode count.
Wow.
Per episode costs roughly $20 million. What a fucking waste of money.
That is insane. It's hard to even fathom, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like they could have just burnt that money and got the same results.
Yeah, I feel like if you just said to the video version of ChatGPT, can you give me 8 additional episodes with a lot of dragons and fighting of House of Dragon, you could have got this whole thing in like, 2 hours.
Just want to see what that is compared to Game of Thrones last season. 90 million for the final season.
It was 90 million for the whole season.
Yeah, it was only 6 episodes, but I think that was broken out 6 and 6 or something like that, or 4 and 6. I think
sounds right.
Yeah, they broke it like 7A and then 8 or whatever. It was average 15 million. I'll be honest with you. I think the graphics in Game of Thrones were significantly better in that last season.
Well, there was a lot more to it, right? Like, I mean, the dragons were really cool, but that's really the only thing that they really need to do in the House of Dragon. Whereas in Game of Thrones, I mean, they had the White Walkers and the giants and the magic and there's all kinds of different interesting things they had to kind of devise how to make it look,
Yeah, I thought that was, I genuinely really enjoyed that aspect, that it wasn't strictly just people and dragons. There was a whole lot of other things going on and other elements to the storyline. Whereas here, it's simply just 2 groups of people that are vying for this, throne, and neither one is really deserving of it. And then they're pulling in all these houses to just die like repeatedly. And then they had the Hightower, the one character, that was kind of like this, I guess, overly cocky and confident. He thought he was a great general and everything. And, spoiler alert, don't listen after this, but he winds up dying. And I thought that, and like, they're like, oh, they stabbed him in his ass, that'll teach him. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that ties back. Like, did he have bowel problems? I don't even remember why that's significant to the scenario.
Yeah, I thought that was really fucking stupid and unnecessary and kind of gratuitous. Like, and then he didn't like smells or something. They tried to like throw in these little things that, again, when it was happening, I was like, in the book, that probably makes more sense. But you guys are just throwing it in here, and it never even really came back up. They were like, oh, well, he, has this inability to deal with bad smells. And so like, they sent in those one guys that like smelled bad, but it didn't really even impact him. And it was just kind of like, okay, so that was just another unnecessary storyline you guys just tossed in here. But like your point though from before is a really good one. Like I didn't even think about that, but like Game of Thrones, part of what was so cool about it is that there was this overlying like mystery. You were like, there's this giant thing everyone is worried about that's even more important than who's on the throne. And so like all the infighting and bullshit is like in some ways secondary to this huge mystery that we still don't understand, and that like had a really cool, made a whole like vibe to the thing. Whereas this doesn't have that at all. It's just the throne part, Yeah,
there's nothing out. There's no talks of anything. And they travel, right? You got the ships and all this other shit. And it's as if the rest of the world in Game of Thrones does not exist. And there's a whole lot of fighting going on. This is essentially who's going to take over Westeros. So oh God. And there's no mention of the wall. Like, why? Why is that not even like a thought? I don't know. I
agree. There seems like there was probably opportunity to like talk about the whole mystery, because they didn't didn't get too deep into the mystery of the man with no face or whatever that Arya kind of did in the Game of Thrones, and like
Yeah.
what was happening at this point of, north of the wall that like was, the precipitating events to the stuff that happens in Game of Thrones. Like I feel like there was opportunity to have that mystery kind of hanging over, but they did nothing to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it says, yeah, because I asked, are the White Walkers appearing, are they part of House of the Dragon, like that timeline? It says, yes, the White Walkers appear in a prophetic vision in House of the Dragon. They're heavily referenced throughout Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy, known as the Song of Ice and Fire. However, they do not physically exist as active threats in the show's current timeline. Well, that's where you fucked up. Like
Exactly. That
like
was the missed
why would you
opportunity.
gloss over that? Like, yeah, that is the one key element. It's not just the people fighting and the dragon element of it and this past and the history of it that Game of Thrones fed on and the magic and all the mystery and all this stuff. Like there's so much going on. And House of the Dragon doesn't talk about any of that shit. They're just average people crying over who the king said should succeed and then watching everybody get slaughtered because of it.
Yeah, pretty much. It was Succession without any of the humor and some of the dragons.
Zero humor. And even
Yeah.
I felt like they were like, well, you know what? Game of Thrones had these incestuous scenes. We're going to go one step further. And I'm like, this just makes it even worse. Like, it doesn't even help the storyline, you know? Like, the whole idea behind Jaime and Cersei is that, like, they love each other beyond just brother and sister love. And they have, like, this son that's not really technically supposed to be the next king, and he doesn't have a claim to it, and how everybody talks under their breath, and yada, yada, yada. And in this, it's just like whiny bitches. Like, I fucking can't stand it.
Yeah, but to your point, like in Game of Thrones, the forbiddenness of that, it also played into like how evil their offspring was, and it kind of like it played a role in the story. Whereas like this, I feel like they could have had it play a role in the story, but instead they show it on the screen to like just make it seem edgy, but it never, like, again, it's just another one of these fucking storyline threads that they pull at, but never actually make relevant. It's like, oh wow, that was just gross to be gross. Great.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say collectively that it's pretty bad overall. And I've yet to read, like, the thing that bothers me is after Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, I want to read about this, what could develop, what could happen. I have no general interest in knowing how this story plays out. I'm just like, I hope they all die, and that's the best of that. But there's some people that do online defend, like, oh, it's the best one. And I'm like, there's no way we're watching the same fucking show. There's no way.
Yeah, you're saying that because you want it to be, not because it is.
Yeah. And okay, like maybe there was more fighting and stuff going on, but I had no feeling at all about this show's outcome at all. And even, and I will say, I thought in the first season when they had the young Rhaenyra, I thought she was a pretty good actress. It seemed like there was a lot of buildup. I felt like they were going to develop characters a little bit more. And then they're just like, you know what? Fuck that. Let's just like go 15 years from now and just like accelerate this whole thing and then get it moving from there. And I'm just like, that sucks. I don't know. Brutal.
So yeah, there you have it. I think that is, I know that also, I mean, generally speaking, we wanted to just do the quick grade on 72 hours.
Yeah, I could just talk about that high level. What was the grade that I gave? I think I gave it a C plus for, so 72 hours, I gave it a C weekday grade, C plus weekend grade. Typical, I feel like it falls into the, like, take whatever movie you think about Kevin Hart, and he's Kevin Hart in that movie. He's got a couple little punchline jokes and everything. Long story short, the premise is that he works as I forget what it is, like an accountant or some office environment, accidentally gets added to a group chat. It's with a bunch of 20-something kids that are planning a bachelor party. He's accidentally added, and they're going back and forth, and it's basically showing how poor they are and the type of conditions that they're going to be in. They're going to Miami, but they don't have a lot of money. Kevin Hart decides, hey, I'm going to give you guys a couple $100, like, spend it wisely. And they're like, no, you should just come and hang out with us. So then in what is a normal 40-something-year-old guy that's sort of with a long-term partner decide to do, he decides to go on this trip with people he's never met. And all these, like, I felt like there were so many storylines in the story that made it very choppy. So, like there's a element of the drug cartel. There's an element of the stupidity of the kids. This group of girl escorts or whatever the fuck they are that cause little problems. And everything that they try to do, Kevin Hart tries to like do something, and then shit goes wrong, and then he tries to like overcompensate for those bad things to prove that he's not a idiot loser. But for the cast of folks that are in this movie, and I said, who's in it? So Kevin Hart obviously is the main guy. You got Marcelo Hernandez, who's the Spanish guy on SNL. He's very popular. guy right now. Mason Gooding, who is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son, who I didn't even know was an actor. He's in it. You got Cam Patterson. He's another guy from SNL. I actually find him funny, but they always make him play a dumb character. You got Ben Marshall, who's the tall redhead who looks like he could be Conan O'Brien's son, but he was a writer on SNL, and now he's like a main cast member. You got the guy Zach Cherry, and why does that name sound familiar? He's the heavyset guy with glasses and a beard on Severance. He's in it.
Oh, okay.
And then it goes down in like who's the other guy? Oh, Andy Garcia. I'm not giving anything away on this, but he does play his role of a drug dealer, similar to some other shows he's in.
It's like everything he's in now.
Yeah, everything now he's like Andy Garcia, the drug dealer. I think in Landman, drug dealer in that. So it does have like a cast of people that are quote unquote funny. I just think the storyline was just, hey, let's whip this together. Kevin Hart needs a couple extra bucks. Netflix needs a win. Good enough. And you know, that's exactly what it is. It's good enough. It's not over the top. And you know, Kevin Hart, sometimes I feel like he does the same running punchlines, but I do genuinely like a lot of his movies that he does, especially stuff with The Rock. Maybe he's trying to get out of The Rock's shadow. I don't know if that's even possible. But it was good enough. That's all I could say. I'm not giving too much away because there's not a lot to give away, to be honest with you.
Yeah. He's endearing. He's in a lot of crap these days, though. So I mean, it sounds like this one was okay, though.
Okay. Yeah, the okay is the best way to put it. It's good enough.
Well, excellent. Well, that was a great bonus episode. Those are some of our opinions around some things you can spend your time on. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Appreciate you.
As per my last podcast with your host, Greg and Eric.
They were jamming all kinds of stuff into it, and it was always exciting.